The greatest power you possess is your ability to choose. Join Lowe's Moore as he reveals how you can begin to maximize that power by exploring yourself on the deepest levels and committing to making lasting and positive changes. Get ready to achieve breakthroughs that will lead to accelerated growth and transformation, because you are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
Why the actions contradict the lamb. I'm fellowshipping when I'm with the fam. That's more relations, that's foreign.
Good evening and welcome back to the Blueprint podcast. Man, look, again, I'm excited to be back with you guys for another evening, another Sunday evening. Last week was just an amazing show. On last week, I had a real good time with my good friend Dan Quintero, from the executive director of the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club. I really, truly, and honestly love talking about young people. Love talking about youth organizations. Love talking about how like Dan, who was paying it forward by giving back to his own Boys and Girls Club. And it was just an amazing conversation last week, man. And I hadn't talked to Dan in quite some time, but it was good to get back with him and have a really nice discussion, man. I hope you guys learned a lot from last week, particularly around youth, around young people, and some of the amazing organizations that are available for your young people, for your youth, for your children. Like Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club, YCOP in Mount Vernon, YMCAs. I mean, I think they have probably over 5,000 boys and girls clubs all over the nation, and also on military base, and also on Indian reservations, all military bases all around the world. You can find a Boys and Girls Club, because our young people, they need school, but they also need after school programs. They need programs to fill the space and time that they're not in school and their parents may be working. So again, I salute Dan Quintero for an amazing job at the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, and do appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to come join me. So again, I want to wish everybody an amazing holiday season. I mean, there's always some, with the holiday season, there's always some good and there's always some bad, and that bad memories and good memories. But I always feel like every time that we get to this holiday season, we're making new memories. And I want to correct something. Last week I said I was starting to become a matriarch in my family, and no, it's not a matriarch. I become a patriarch in my family, and I want to make that correction this week. That means that I'm getting older. So again, but I want to say thank you. Good evening to Mike Hammond up there. This is going to be an amazing show tonight. And so I want to get going. And I want to start on some, just kind of on a sad note, but I want to pay tribute, and I want to, remember a few friends of mine that, passed away recently. And I got to start with Paul Silas. Paul Silas was my coach. I met Paul even before he coached me. He was in the league, played with the Boston Celtics, one of the greatest rebounders of our time, a guy who was about 6'7", but had no vertical, but found his way to lead the league in rebounding. Just such an amazing person. I had the opportunity to play with him when the Los Angeles Clippers, which is now the Los Angeles Clippers, was the San Diego Clippers, moving from Buffalo. The Buffalo Braves moved from Buffalo to San Diego. Can you imagine that? Man, trying to get to a basketball game in the winter in Buffalo. But they had some amazing teams back there, those Buffalo teams. My good friend, also, may he rest in peace, Randy Clark, the fastest guy ever in the NBA. Just an amazing player. And the one and only Bob McAdoo was on the on the Buffalo Braves back then. And then Paul Silas was my coach with the San Diego Clippers. My good friend, as you know, I had him on probably about a month ago. Terry Cummings was the rookie of the year. He was on the team, along with Bill Walton was on the team, man. And we just had a up and coming team. But Paul, I mean, he always amazed me, because I've had a lot of coaches in my life, and they do a lot of screaming and yelling. But Paul was amazing with getting his point across without cursing, without yelling, right? He just knew how to motivate players. He was a player's coach, and he's going to be truly missed. I've done a lot. We used to do a lot of fundraisers together, because he coached with the Knicks, he coached with the Nets, and he lived in Mount Kisco. And I used to, make sure that I went to all his fundraising events. He was just an amazing person too. Yeah, my wife was reminding me, Craig Hodges, Tom Chambers, Michael Brooks, just a really good team back then. And so Paul, rest in peace, man. His son is now the head coach of the Houston Rockets. And Paul used to take his son down to I don't know if people knew this or not, but he used to bring his son down to Mount Vernon, right? And made him a member of the Boys and Girls Club of Mount Vernon back in the day. So Paul Silas, man, rest in peace, man. God got a good one. And also right next to Paul, you see Louis Orr. We used to call him Louis Orr. We didn't play on the same team, but we ended up playing and trying out for different all-star games between high school and college, as we prepared to go in for our pro careers. And just we talking about nice people, man. Louis Orr was just an amazing person, amazing player, and an amazing coach. The Louie and Bowie Show, right? And I'll never forget, man, playing against those guys, man, catching a couple of alley-oops and stuff like that, man. We became great friends after basketball. We stayed in contact and in touch, man. Louis Orr, man, you're gonna be missed also, man. God bless your family. I pray that they would be encouraged, today. And man, no words can't say when you lose a loved one, man. You can't. Sometimes you just can't find the right words. But I want to say God bless you, and may the memories of these two great men never cease. God bless you guys, man. And welcome back. We want to welcome back Brittany Griner back on American soil. And we don't want to see anybody. We just living in such a crazy world today, man. There's still people from America that are over in other countries that are stuck over there. There's just so many crazy things going on in the world, man. And around this time, to see Brittany Griner come back home, because, hey, we're in this, what we consider these basketball fraternities. That's both male and female. Because I played, my wife played, my daughter played, my son played. My son's played basketball, and it's a fraternity. And so when somebody's trapped in another country or somebody passes away, you just feel for them. And so this is good news to have her back in America, and looking forward to seeing her play next season, because she said that she would like to. And just amazing. So as we move forward in the show, real quickly, I want to show this little video here, because this is our series on paying it forward, right? And I hope that in this season, And even after this season is over, a lot of people find a forgiving heart in this season. A lot of people find a place to be able to give. And then all of a sudden, when this season is over, we just stop giving. We stop paying it forward. We stop thinking about paying it forward. I think you should be thinking about paying something forward every single day. So I want to show this clip here, and and we'll get rolling.
You've already done the hard part. This is the fun part coming up. I want you to go out there and play and hit the field, confident that we are the best football team in America.
By now, you know Bobby Bowden lived 91 difference-making years, that he is the second winningest coach in major college football history, and might have won more than 2 national championships if not for wide rights and wide lefts. What you might not know, but should, is that Bowden left behind a breadcrumb trail of kindness during his long life. His home address and phone number were listed in the Tallahassee directory, just in case, he said, a friend or former player needed to reach him. You should know that he took lunchtime naps, but only because he had been up since 4 a.m. reading his Bible and sending letters of appreciation to opposing schools. You should know that his only vice was chewing on an unlit cigar or stuffing a wad of chaw in his mouth while on the practice tower. On occasion, he might accidentally swear, but his go-to word was quintessential Bowden.
Get in there and go to the goal line with a dadgum ball.
I like him, dadgummit, and I like his family.
You should know that he cared about his players more than his statue, that he drank soda pops with peanuts dropped to the bottom of the bottle, that he once slept on the shoulder of a sports reporter while sitting in the back of a speeding Florida Highway Patrol cruiser. I know this because the reporter was me. You should know that he signed anything dropped off by anyone at the FSU football offices, that he encouraged his coaches to bring their kids to work, that he had a soft spot for military history. You should know that he was sneaky competitive, loyal almost to a fault, that he was civil and gracious, even when Florida State unceremoniously forced him out in 2009.
Nothing lasts forever, does it? But I've had some wonderful years here at Florida State.
Bowden couldn't last forever, but his legacy will. And dadgum, that's the least we can do for him.
Awesome, Coach Bobby Bowden. Hey, I just missed Coach Bowden, man. I mean, I heard so many legendary stories about him because as I arrived in 1976, right, to West Virginia University, Coach Bowden had just left West Virginia University for Florida State, and I heard so many great stories about not how great a football player he was or how he turned a West Virginia program around, but how he made football players into men and responsible men. He was a man of faith. He always paid it forward. My good friend Charlie Ward, and of course Deion Sanders, and so many other football players who Coach Bowden has touched moving forward, and they carry the same mindset and legacy that he does, which is God first, family second, and then football, right? So we wanted to, share that with you, and in regards to paying it forward. And it's, just an amazing human being. I wish I had the opportunity. He was like the John Wooden in regards to how he developed his players. He was like the John Wooden of football, right? And, just an amazing. And now to see his disciples, I like to call them his disciples, his players go on with the same mindset, taking the same principles and applying it to the lives of other people. So again, make sure, right, you pay it forward. And then, so now let me quickly go through my books. Well, my book of the week, right? I don't know if you got any, if there's any basketball fans out here, but my book of the week is from Coach Hal Whistle. He was my coach in the World Basketball League, right? And I don't see the book yet. There you go. I mean, I've seen a lot of basketball books, and they're all great, but this book right here is the top of the line for me. On if you're training somebody in basketball, Hal Whistle, former coach of Fordham University, man, get this book, Step by Step Success. I mean, to success. And what a great person. And if you ever seen the movie Finding Foster, right? Coach Hal Whistle and his son would put together all the strategies for how to film the basketball plays that were going on in that particular movie. Just the genius on the basketball court. That's an awesome book right there. Get yourself a copy. And then this week's word of the week. Look, I've gone through the fruit of the Spirit, right? And this is my prayer. I mean, every single day, right? I ask this of God. Right. And I ask that God would allow these things to manifest in my life. And now I'm on gentleness. I started out with love and joy. Well, love is the main thing. Right. And the attributes of love is joy and peace and patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and now gentleness. Right. I ask God every single day to allow these fruits of the Spirit, these fruit of the Spirit, to manifest in my life. I know that I would always be a better person if I can manifest these characteristics right there. And so my word of the week is gentleness. Sometimes you just have to learn how to be gentle. Now sometimes when you're a coach, right? Sometimes we forceful and screaming, but sometimes, man, it may take a gentle touch, right, to be able to move a player in the direction you need them to go. Sometimes it as a parent, sometimes, man, you've been forceful, you've been yelling, you've been screaming, and sometimes it just takes a little gentleness to move your kid in the right direction. So my word is gentleness. And then here's my Hill and Pierce Harper affirmation quote moment. It says, be a reflection of what you'd like to receive. If you want love, give love. If you want truth, be truthful. If you want respect, give respect. What you give out will return to you. I like that right there. That's something, I always say that, every day you got to have some affirmation every day. I listen to affirmations every day. I need to be encouraged every morning I wake up because I need something to turn that engine on every morning. And so affirmations, quotes from the Bible, all those things get me started in the morning and help me transition from a mindset of negative and fear over into a mindset of faith, right? Of faith, and helps me to align with my assignments of how I can help somebody that day. So I like that. And here we go. This is my music and movie, right? Nat King Cole's Christmas album, right? Like, that was my when I was a little guy, man, people said they used to call me Nat King Cole. He said like I used to look like Nat King Cole. And I can't sing like Nat, but chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I almost got into it. And but Nat was amazing. All that silky smooth voice. Whoa. If you don't have Nat King Cole or listen to Nat King Cole during Christmas time, something's wrong, right? He's had some amazing songs. And then next is my movie of the week, right? Hey, this week coming, my all-time favorite movie is a Wonderful Life. I mean, I love that movie, man, because that movie is so powerful, because sometimes we think that we can't make a difference in this life. Well, in this movie, you find out that one person can make a difference. And the other thing is that I believe everybody can make a difference and impact an impression on somebody's life as they go through this life of theirs. So again, hey, those are my my book, my word, my affirmation, and my movie. And then finally, I want to give a salute to Steph Curry. He was the sports person of the year. Back in the day, Sports Illustrated had the man of the year. Sports Illustrated's man of the year. I had the pleasure a few years back to hang out with my man JB Smoove. We were down at the Barclays Center, and LeBron James was the sports person of the year. That was an awesome experience, man. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there. I mean, man, with so many people, they honored him. It was amazing. Bill Russell was there. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there. And of course, LeBron James was there. And then now Steph Curry. I mean, hope you get a Sports Illustrated and you read about these guys. These are amazing men, amazing young men. And I salute Steph Curry. And so I guess without further ado, let me show this little video. And let me say this in preference. And let me preference this before the video come on, because this is in reference to my guest tonight. Right. And I want to see later on in the show, I want to see whether or not he may have some tips for us. I know I'm going to be asking me some questions. I'm going to need some tips as I get older. Right. I'm going to need somebody to tell me who's the master at some of this stuff as you get older, particularly in exercise and rehabilitation and all those kinds of things. So check out this little video right here, and then I'll introduce my guest for this evening.
Hi, my name is Myra and I'm from Queens. When I wake up in the morning, my back usually feels brittle. What can I do the night before to relieve this?
Hello, Myra. The key to making your back feel better is proper stretching. Hi, I'm Dr. Malcolm Reid, Chairman of the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at St. Luke's and Roosevelt Hospitals. Essentially, your body is like a machine with lots of moving parts. What's most important in regards to the back is your spine. If you're very active, the moving parts in the spine wear down, and you'll eventually develop degenerative arthritic changes and get areas where there's bone on bone. Just like a rusty hinge, if you don't move your joints for a long time, they become very stiff. Consequently, there are basic stretches that you can do to loosen up at bedtime and in the morning. I personally do exercises on a regular basis and find them quite helpful. At St. Luke's Roosevelt, our physical therapists will be happy to demonstrate safe and appropriate ways to stretch.
Dr. Malcolm Reid. Now, are you not? Are you still at Roosevelt?
Actually, I'm at Mount Sinai West, Mount Sinai Morningside. Our hospital was actually merged with Mount Sinai about 7 or 8 years ago, and I currently serve as the site chair at those two sites. It's still the former Roosevelt Hospital, which is across the street from John Jay, and the former St. Luke's, which is across from Columbia University. But I'm still the head of rehab at those two facilities, correct?
Oh, nice. So man, hopefully later on in the show, I might have to ask you, like, man, when I wake up in the morning, my back is hurting.
We could discuss that. That's probably from all of those dunks and reverses and all that you did at West Virginia, Mount Vernon, and in the NBA. But you're staying in great shape. I saw you recently, as you know.
Yes, sir. Oh man, hey, it was great too. It was great to see you. Thank you for inviting me. Not many of us, when you said yeah, there's going to be a reunion, and you started talking about like you reunion of people who were in elementary school together, and I was start thinking like, man, I don't really know many people from when I was or remember or seeing anybody from elementary school, but I want to thank you for inviting me because I did, even though we didn't go to elementary school together, right? Many of us graduated together, or somebody graduated the year before I did, and or somebody graduated with me. It was just amazing to see some people I hadn't seen in a while. And then, what's funny? The funniest thing about the reunion was, when you're in school, how well do you actually pay attention to your classmates? How well do you actually know your classmates? And because a number of the people they met in kindergarten and first grade, and they went through elementary school, and in the reunion they like, oh, we've been in touch for years. I mean, and they actually knew each other and remembered each other from elementary school. And I was like, wow. And people were coming up to me saying like, hey man, I enjoy watching you play. Or, a couple of ladies was like, hey man, and I enjoyed cheering for you. And I was like, I'm looking at them. I'm trying to remember who they were, because you're just not paying attention. Yeah. So thank you again for inviting me. Yeah.
True. The irony is it was neither of our graduating years. It was actually technically the class of 75. And I know you were 76 and I was 78. And even how I got invited was coincidental because one of the person from 75's brother became the president of the American Medical Association. And he stated he grew up in Mount Vernon. And that's how we spoke. And the connection was very strong because that person, Dr. Gurman, had gone to Trapphagen as I did. So I was in sort of an honorary invitee, and they certainly welcomed you because you're Lowe's more. I mean, you transcend all the years at Mount Vernon.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, no, it was actually a good time. And I actually see, what's the young lady? I mean, I think she was on the cheerleading team when I was in school.
Lenore Washington.
Yes. And
her sister Melanie was on the cheerleader in my class, in my graduating class.
Okay, yeah. And I seen her yesterday, and I give a salute to Judge William Edwards, who graduated. I think he graduated in 75 too.
Correct. He's just been nominated to the Wall of Fame, Mount Vernon High School Wall of Fame.
Yeah, I was there yesterday when they did the induction.
Oh, wonderful.
I went to the ceremony, and his wife was there. He lived and breathed Mount Vernon. So
as did you, and I breathed a lot of Mount Vernon too. I even stayed at home for college, so I breathed a lot of Mount Vernon there.
No, yeah. So they were all there too. Miss Washington was there too as well. Yeah, it was good. It was a good situation. I was, proud of, Judge Edwards. We used to speak often,
Excellent.
And we used to meet often, as well. And I told his wife, man, we meet everywhere, pizza shops, delis, and we were always trying to save the world,
There's a lot of work to do, and I think we have to continue to try to do that. And you do it well. You and Patrice do it well.
Oh, thank you. Malcolm, let's get into this thing, get to know you a little bit, right? So, tell the audience out there, who is Malcolm Reid?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, Los.
Yeah, tell the audience out there who is Malcolm Reid. Okay, I know you grew up in Mount Vernon, but what was the impact of mom and dad and siblings, growing up in the city of Mount Vernon?
Well, I guess in a nutshell, I was actually born in Brooklyn, raised in Mount Vernon, and my parents.
Well, you like me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I came from North Carolina and I came to Mount Vernon.
Yeah, mine was a shorter trip, but interestingly, we closed on our house on April 4th, 1968, which is a very sad day. It was the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated. I was 7 years old, and we actually moved in July. We moved in July, and that's where I started grade school at Trapphagen. And I remember it was interesting because living close to the high school, I met more kind of kids that looked like me, if you will, when school started. You know, buses were coming in there, and I didn't realize that that was sort of a novel event. I was a 7-year-old, and attended Trapphagen, attended middle school, which was A.B. Davis, Nichols, and then Mount Vernon High School. Participated in a lot of activities, as I'm sure you did, you know, but some of the things I enjoyed the most was the band, jazz band, and baseball, playing baseball. And we weren't as phenomenal as basketball, but the 2 years I played, we actually were an amazing team. Well, 45-5, 3 guys were drafted on major leagues. So, but most importantly,
who were those 3 guys? Who was those 3 guys? Roy Smith. I remember Roy. Yeah.
Rick, he had the longest career. Played about 10 years, I believe, in the pros. Rick Fagnani and Paul Casalino. The other two didn't. They played in minor leagues. That's it. But they all threw over 90 miles an hour. But I think most importantly, I attended public schools and had a wonderful time, and focused on academics a lot. Took some advanced placement classes, those that they had basically, and I did well academically, and I had a good time in baseball. I had a chance to start my senior year, which was really good because my coach was actually Tony Fiorentino, who I believe you highlighted on this show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So learned a lot from him, and we could discuss that at some point too. But most importantly, I was blessed with the opportunity to get into quite a few, excellent colleges. Went to Fordham undergrad, primarily academic scholarships, and also got a newspaper carrier scholarship. I delivered newspapers in Mount Vernon throughout high school, junior high school, and actually, I lived at home for college, so I actually delivered the down routes, so routes that they couldn't find children to deliver. So I delivered throughout Mount Vernon, all of Mount Vernon, and when there was a strike, even delivered in northern Bronx. And in college, I dropped off papers for youngsters to deliver and delivered routes they couldn't find kids to do. So I still did that even in college while doing pre-med at Fordham, and it was and worked at Brush Park, at the parks, cleaning the baseball fields, cleaning the bathroom, just working hard. That was just what my parents instilled in me. And I have one sister. She's 7 years older than I. She got out in 1971, and I'm the youngest, as I said, my sister and myself. And then from Fordham, matriculated at Harvard Medical School. And there, I also did a master's degree in public policy. And, further was doing an internship in Mineola and then chief residency at Columbia-Presbyterian Physical Medicine and Rehab. And have been practicing as a physical medicine rehabilitation doctor for the last 30 years, board certified rehab doc. That gives a little bit of the background of education, but
I don't know
most
if you
importantly,
can.
the Mount Vernon schools resonate loudly. And if I may put one plug in, when I was at Harvard Med School, we actually had 3 people who went to Trapphagen's were at Harvard Med School with me at the same time. Myself, Dewana White, who is a physician, and Michael Diamandis. I didn't know him well, but all 3 of us were at Trapphagen simultaneously, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you mind, and maybe your computer tip it so you can see your whole face. There you go. Sir. Yeah. And well, most people don't know, sometimes Mount Vernon gets a bad rap. But
absolutely.
But a lot of people have gone to some amazing schools, particularly colleges out of Mount Vernon, from Yale, Harvard. I mean, all the Ivy League schools, to Cornell, just all over. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day when, one of the things you always do is I go to graduations, high school graduations, because I know a lot of kids from the Boys and Girls Club, and I've seen them grow up and graduate. So now you have 3 high schools, or, back then 2 high schools. So you got to go to one, you got to go to the other. And you always look at the back of the book, right? Because that's in the back of the book. You look at the back of your program for graduation, and you will see all the list of the number of kids that went to college. and where they were going. And that, to me, that's always amazing.
Absolutely.
To see kids finishing high school and further in their education. I mean, it's just an awesome thing to see people, going to having these different experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that. I mean, and so you went to Fordham. So you say you stayed at home. You didn't stay at home.
I commuted to
You commuted? Okay. Yeah. All right.
And
yeah, Fordham's a nice school.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. But interestingly, when I was there from 78 to 82, at that point, it was probably 90% commuters, meaning most people lived certainly in the tri-state area. And then 10% were out of state, and out of state often might have been even New Jersey, Connecticut. Now it's reversed. It's probably 20% are local, and a lot of people are from out of town. It's excellent place. Received an excellent education. I didn't try out for sports there. Played some basketball. That was fun. It was a lot of fun. The focus on the academics was just it was just primary for me, because I felt that was really going to be my ticket to success and moving forward. And in terms of paying it forward, I always have and continue to go back and speak, whether it's at grade schools, certainly at high schools, colleges, graduate programs, medical schools, trying to encourage others to pay it forward and to, remember where they came from, most importantly.
Yeah. I mean, but when you were in high school, I mean, did you think, or just growing up, period, did you think like, hey man, one day I want to be a doctor? I mean, I know in the 6th grade, I was like, I didn't really know what I wanted to be, but I saw the Knicks win the NBA championship. So, I was like, I want to play for the Knicks. That was my whole thing. I was going to play for the Knicks.
Sure,
and if I couldn't play for the Knicks, I was going to be an artist. I had a whole lot of different. But when did you know? I mean,
I wanted to be a doctor as far back as maybe 8 years of age. I have a cousin who's 11, 12 years older than I am. He became a physician. I didn't know him well at that point when I was an 8-year-old, but I always did well in math and science. And it sounds altruistic and corny, but I wanted to help people. And it seemed like that was the route I wanted to pursue. And did well in high school, did well in college. And, fortunately got accepted in one of the top medical schools. And while there, as I said, did a policy degree in health policy and really tried to take it to another level. But again, always trying to bring it back and sharing with young folks the opportunities, because the opportunity started in Mount Vernon. It started at Trapphagen, the middle school, and the high school, the same schools that many of the folks here have gone through. Might be different now than 50 years ago, but the schools are there. And it's parental involvement. My parents were very, very instrumental in that. But I think, you say it's probably different times, but here's I guess I always say there's a nugget out there somewhere, or Dame Lillard says dropping dimes, right? You said when I was 8 years old, I wanted to do this, right? And I think that if a young person thinks about something early enough, right, and it gets stuck in them, you can't get it out. Right.
I think when you find a niche or something that you just got to put everything in it, no matter what. If you keep thinking you're going to be a doctor, like for me, I knew I wanted to play basketball, right? And everything, every person that I asked about being able to play basketball referred back to how important education was. Right. So now I had to turn around. Oh, if I'm going to be a basketball player, something I was trying to get away from. Right. So now I'm like, okay, I got to go to the thing that I'm not really all that interested in. But in order for me to get where I need to go, I got to be good at that. I got to be better at that. I got to work hard at that, and because the education is what leads you to the dream.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So I mean, I'm inspired by you saying like at 8 years old, I wanted to do this, And
well, again, I looked at my own parents. My father was born in Harlem. He was born in 1927 in the height of the Depression. And he was one of 8 Negro boys that were given an opportunity to take a test, and he passed the test and he got into Stuyvesant High School. At that time, it was all male, and so he's one of 8 blacks that graduated from Stuyvesant. He moved on, and he wound up actually playing professional drums for a while, was drafted, served in the Army. He was the only person of color at Fort Sill in Oklahoma, where he became a first lieutenant, and he comes back through GI Bill, goes to school at night, and gets a degree at NYU, his undergrad degree in 3.5 years. My mother, first person in her family from Jamaica to come to the U.S., she goes to school at night, and she gets her undergrad degree at age 30, her first master's degree at age 40, her second at age 50. So seeing that, I was blessed with a lot of opportunities. Roof over my head,
Yeah.
2 parents, a sister she graduated college, high school at 16, whatever. And all I have to do is just work hard. Follow rules, do what I need to do. Went to church on Sundays with the family. At that time, as a young child, but follow rules and have fun. But put some education was important. Love sports, and I played baseball pretty well enough to really play exceedingly well that senior year. But when I put everything on the table, I said academics was going to take me farthest. I could maybe have gone a little farther in baseball, but I'm glad I chose the route that I did.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, some people don't wake up until it's too late. I mean, that was one of the things, when I was dealing with some young men back in the day, between the Boys and Girls Club, it was, everything was hinged upon playing basketball. Right. And, I used to say, man, they're going to let me play basketball. I've been talking to this coach about coming to the school to play basketball. And I used to have to say, look, how about they're going to let me come get an education. Right. And then they find out I'm good at basketball. Right. So that's the first thing. Like, let me get in school.
Yes, it's getting the priorities straight. And I
Right.
applaud you and Patrice for helping to direct our young folks back into that correct mode. Because as you know, all too well, even when you look at the Final Four and you're looking at some of the top players in the nation, how many really are going to make it to the next level and be there 5 years later, let alone 2 or 3? And I always tell my wife that sometimes you see them crying, not just because they lost, but this is unfortunately the pinnacle. If they didn't focus on their academics after they've lost their eligibility, I don't really think the college unfortunately needs them much more. And, I'm sure you could speak to that. It's just, we have to make sure our young people get the education and the skill set in basketball or baseball or whatever, hockey, that'll take us in another direction. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to do both, that's even better.
That's right.
Not easy.
Yeah. No. You're correct on that. And yeah, I hope somebody out there, maybe it's a parent, always say, I didn't drop my see my little basketball. That's my little miniature basketball. This is like my pebble.
Right.
I always drop that pebble in the pond because I think it's going to be a ripple effect of the show. I usually do it early in the show, but I just thought I'd drop it now because you just said something, that, somebody may not get it tonight. Somebody may pick this up, somewhere down a couple of weeks from now, a month from now, and they'll hear you say what you said and that ripple effect, right? They're going to be impacted by what you said, and they're going to, some parents going to listen and turn around and say, hey, what is it that you want to do? Hey, I was listening, I heard Dr. Reid, may not use your name or anything. So I was listening to somebody said, this is what you need to do. Right. So you just never know.
Yeah. To your point, it's a blueprint. Education. And now with computers, which they didn't have in our day, to be candid, we didn't have all of that. All you really need is access to the internet, some Wi-Fi. Many places will give you a computer. They'll give you a laptop. You just soak it up. I mean, we see individuals sometimes from other countries who don't speak English who can all of a sudden become a valedictorian 2 years later after learning the language. It shows the mind. It's amazing what you can take in. And one can focus on sports. That's great. But not everyone's blessed with the talent that you're blessed with, to be honest. And some people can work very hard and they'll never get to any level of a load more. But the problem is some keep looking for that dream, and it'd be simpler to try to do it with the academic route and let the sports carry you as far as you can.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you for saying that, man. And so, what was it like going, after going to Fordham and then going to, you said Harvard, right?
Harvard Medical School. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What was that like? What was that experience? I mean, we know what Fordham is. I mean,
Yeah, well, it was interesting because at Harvard, my class size was 165 people, and out of the 165, 16 were black, 4 women, 12 men. Some, like myself, would be second generation in college or even graduate school. Some were first generation, high school and college, and some third generation. It's a spectrum of folks, and even in the broader pool, the white students, students from other groups, some truly were, the first person might have gone to higher education. Some, a young lady in my class, there's a college at Harvard that's named after her family. I mean, 7th generation at Harvard. So it's a spectrum. So in some ways it's humbling, but the fact of the matter is that once one has gotten in, specifically to that school, they feel it's typically harder to get in than to get kicked out, if you will. So
right.
You sort of made it over a huge hump, and now you can focus on doing what you need to do. And many of us, like myself, spent an additional year. I did a policy degree. Quite a few of my close friends did additional degrees, public health. Several actually obtained PhDs. One brother actually did an MD, JD, a law degree. And many just did 4 years and then went on to do, residencies, fellowships, and many are, superstars, if you will, in the medical field. And some have decided just to go back and be a family doc, middle of the Midwest. It's a spectrum, but it was interesting. It was open mind. I think Boston itself had its own isolated areas, if you will, back in those days. Now it's a much more eclectic international vibe there. But there are areas you really couldn't go there. And I mean, I'm just putting it out there. But there are areas in New York people shouldn't really have gone to back in those days.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's just the nature of the way it is. I went back to my 35th reunion. It was excellent. I mean, I really enjoyed it. One of the guys in my class happened to become the head of the World Health Organization. I mean,
wow.
I tell people they're some bad boys. I mean, remarkable boys. Another buddy of mine who graduated with me, he did a PhD. He's African American, did a PhD in polymer chemistry, went to Princeton, went to MIT, did a PhD at PhD and an MD, and he was the first black dean at UConn, University of Connecticut School of Medicine. Wow. These are friends, colleagues, played ball with them in the gym, intramurals and things like that. I can call him, he's a friend. So I mean, some remarkable people from all walks of life, black, white, all folks, good people.
Yeah, let me say to the audience out there, the blueprint is interactive. So, if you have any questions and comments, please do. We will see them down at the bottom of the screen. We try to answer them to the best of our ability. And yeah, but I think, you got Dr. Malcolm Reid here. He's saying some pretty wonderful things, and you may have some questions. I got a question right now, Doc.
Sure.
I mean, how did you, because, I talk to kids all the time for years and they would say, I want to do this, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to be a doctor. Okay. You're a doctor. Okay. What kind of doctor? Oh, I want to be in social work. Okay. What do you want to do in social work? I mean, I want to be in communication. Okay. What part of communication? What made you think, I mean, talk about how you selected what you are right now. How did you make that
decision?
It's
interesting because it comes right back to the start of this program. It started in Mount Vernon. I attended, and I've shared this with you, I used to go to the YMYWHA, or the Jewish Y, near Hartley Park. I don't know if it's still there. You know better than I.
No, it's not there.
unfortunately. But
Yeah,
I used to
very
play ball.
unfortunate.
I used to play ball there. Had a lot of fun. I know some of the guys from the boys club came there, and they showed me what real basketball looked like when they would come there, like Scooter, Rodney, and the likes of those guys. But be that as it may, I was in medical school, and I had stopped by. Actually, no, I might have been pre-med at that time. Excuse me, pre-med. I was in at Fordham, and I met a gentleman who was finishing his residency in physical medicine and rehab, and he was telling me about the field. And basically, it sounded like something that would be very interesting. It dealt with individuals who had sports injuries. It dealt with individuals who had some diminution in function. And I looked at my own family. Two of my grandparents lived into their 90s. And quite frankly, one of the only docs they ever would have needed was a rehab doctor, because their walking got a little slower, some arthritis, aches and pains that people get as they reach their 8th, 9th, or even 10th decade of life. And I say facetiously, all roads lead to rehab. And certainly for yourself, an athlete, anyone who's played sports knows what rehab is about. But more generally, I look at it as individuals who are not going to have surgical procedures. So if, let's say, you have a knee injury, but you don't need arthroscopic surgery, you don't need or don't want any injections, if it can be managed conservatively, a rehab doc would be one of the stops you do. Back pain, neck pain are two of the most common reasons people go to doctors and even go to emergency rooms. Much of low back pain, which I think you showed in that initial segment. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear the audio, but I've seen what I look like. I didn't miss much. so bottom line is that most back pain is medical. It's not surgical. So seeing individuals like that, working with them, and it also can entail doing electromyography studies or EMG to assess if people have pinched nerves, neuromuscular issues. And I was well trained when at my residency at Columbia. So it just seemed like a field that would be a natural fit. And I came in really at a good time, because it was a field that had sort of had just come into its own, so to speak, in the 1950s and 40s and 50s. And with the advent of antibiotics, people were living after, say, a limb injury, because before antibiotics, people would die from gangrene. There's no antibiotics. So a person could have an amputation. So people who started the rehab field included orthopedic doctors, rheumatologists, internal medicine doctors. And this whole field sort of grew out of the fact that, people are coming back, say, from the war, they're surviving things from the war, and you need to rehabilitate them. You refer to the Walter Reid Hospital, they have excellent rehab services, etc. All the VA hospitals, of which my father was a patient there. Excellent rehab. So I looked into it when I was doing the policy degree, looked into policy issues related to rehab. And the rest really worked out well. I did my residency and was selected as one of 2 chief residents at Columbia. And that was way back in the day, 1990, 91 is when I finished my residency.
Wow,
and
long time.
It was a great experience. Actually, one of the chief resident of surgery at that time was Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz, the one.
Dr. Oz, okay.
Didn't know him well, but he and I happened to be chief residents at the same time.
Right.
At Columbia.
Well, it's crazy because even though you didn't continue to play sports, I mean, and that was my point kind of earlier. People that, whether or not there's a question of whether they love sports.
True.
Right. And you said it a bunch of times or referred to it a bunch of times. Not everybody's going to be the me or Michael Jordan or somebody who gets this opportunity for whatever the reason. Right. But we still love sports.
Oh, sure.
Right. And so we get involved with other things that connects us to sports. So in some way, you're still connected to sports.
Oh, absolutely. Right? And I mean,
yeah.
Personally, for fitness, I bike. I bike regularly. I try to bike. I actually biked yesterday, 30 miles. So, I mean, I really like activity because it's important. It's important to certainly our physical health and mental health, quite frankly. And I know you know that with regards to exercise because you're exceedingly fit. I know you swim, you run. I still believe Patrice has a better shot than you, but that's personal. I won't go there.
Man. We're gonna have to bring her on here to verify who has a better shot.
right. Just because she knows that you're left-handed. That's the main thing.
Well, I know she's right-handed, so
that's true too. That's true too.
Yeah, but I mean, Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're thinking about what it is that you ultimately want to do, and it seems like you got a passion for this, a love
Absolutely. I
for it,
really enjoy what I do. Yeah.
right? And and as people, because there are times when people get injured, young people get injured, right? Young people get injured and have to go to rehab, right? Older folks get injured and have to go. Older folks get older and got to go to rehab.
Right.
Right. I was 45. I think I was around 40, 45 or something like that. And I was playing. I had just made up my mind that, I was through with competitive ball. I was still playing. I was playing at the Greenberg Community Center. And, went up for a layup and two guys hit me and ruptured my patella tendon.
Oh, that's surgical.
Yeah. So
that's not just rehab.
Yeah, so I had it repaired and stuff like that, and I was like 7 weeks in a full cast, and then they took it off, and then I was in rehabilitation. Getting rid of the I guess what do you call that when you're atrophy. Getting rid of the atrophy, going through the bending.
Somebody who's as fit as you, when you're at bed rest and you can't walk and run and jog, your muscle, you will definitely lose some muscle bulk. Very, very true.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I was looking down the line, I was like, whose knee is that? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But it took me 2 years. I went through, and then everybody kept saying to me, "Hey man, make sure you go through full rehab. Make sure you get full range of motion."
Correct. It's essential.
Yeah, and I went through full rehab, full range of motion, and it took me about 2 years, and I was back on the court. I mean,
excellent.
Yeah. So you got to put in the work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so talk to me about, because one of the things said about you that okay, you're in the rehabilitation, but human performance. What is the rehabilitation? Let's know what rehabilitation and what is human performance.
Our department changed its name from rehabilitation medicine to human performance because it is broader than just rehab. So just to give you a sense of what I do in rehab, I primarily oversee our 2 inpatient rehab beds, 25 beds at Mount Sinai West, 59th Street, and 15 uptown. And most of the patients that come from within our hospital. They typically have come in, let's say, due to a fall. They might have a hip fracture. They've had surgery, and then they'll come to our rehab unit, and then we rehabilitate that person to get well enough to go to their home or their apartment. Or they might have had a stroke. Those are some of the more common things. But some individuals may have cancer that spread to their back. That's why they're not able to walk. So we would rehabilitate them in conjunction with the oncological care that they're getting for the cancer, and we try to get them as independent as possible. Some individuals have, traumatic injuries, like they're riding on these motorized bikes. Hopefully they had a helmet on, but if they get hit and then all of a sudden they break their leg or they have sustained an injury, and that's not uncommon. We see, unfortunately, too many of those events. So we see a lot of different types of individuals in rehab. The human performance is really more at our main site. Our main site is at the Mount Sinai main campus, which is at 98th, Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue. We have really a world-renowned spinal cord unit and traumatic brain injury unit, and doing research with all sorts of novel approaches to trying to regenerate spinal cord tissue so individuals who couldn't walk can walk, using interface between computers, artificial intelligence to try to get individuals who, again, might be paraplegic or even quadriplegic to be able to do more, to be as able-bodied as they possibly can be. So that's why it's a lot broader than sort of just, tearing a patella, which is serious. It could be career-ending. But, to your point, Matt, you did your rehab, you worked hard, and you're back on the court.
Yeah. I see my wife said my mom used to you took it down as soon as I get ready.
The social worker at Harlem Hospital. Yeah. I probably met her. I would have met her because when I was at Columbia, we rotated through Harlem Hospital. Absolutely. We work very closely with physical therapists, who work on ambulation, backs, necks, lower extremity rehab, like knees and ankles, hips, and then occupational therapy. So sort of an oxy as it's somewhat basically it's not a person working on getting a job. It's your upper extremities or people with arthritis in the hands and anything in the upper extremities. And we also work closely with speech therapists, speech and language.
Yeah. So somebody says, I want to be in rehab is a lot more than just.
Well, I always have to qualify that because when people say that, they'll say, "Oh man, I want to be in rehab," and then they start talking about all the drugs they're abusing. I said, "No, not that kind of rehab," because oftentimes think of drug rehab. Then there's alcohol rehab, and to be candid with you, the three can actually be intertwined because individuals who abuse alcohol and/or illegal substances often lead to injuries. And so it's not an uncommon scenario where, if a person's high or they're drunk, they're higher likelihood that they're going to fall or unfortunately sustain some serious injuries. So we do work closely with other departments, but that's obviously not the vast majority of the patients we see.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have any, I don't know. I don't know if anybody out there got a question for, Dr. Reid over here. I think my wife should have a question for you. Man, where's she at? I know she had a question. I don't know. I think she's got a little sciatic nerve problem. What's the solution for sciatic nerve problem? From your hip, your back?
Yeah, typically, a lot of people kind of describe any pain that's radiating down their leg as sciatic. It's the largest nerve coming out the posterior aspect of the buttocks and going down the back of the leg. But usually that, most importantly, would be the history. You want to always make sure that the doctor gets a detailed history as to what has happened, what type of work one does, what activities they've done. Because again, someone who's played sports like you have played, or Patrice has played, you've done more wear and tear in your back than someone who's had a completely sedentary life. They don't go out and work out in the gym. They don't do much, outside physically. Somebody who's doing construction work, very different than a person who, again, is very sedentary. At some point, usually imaging is done. Typically, plain x-rays are very helpful in showing just arthritic changes, which almost everybody has. They typically do as we mature. So even in one's 30s, 40s, but certainly in 50s, 60s, and beyond, you see arthritic changes. Sometimes there's narrowing of where the nerve roots come out, and that's where one can get pinched nerves that can sometimes lead to what's called a sciatica, or it could be a radiculopathy if it's in the lumbar, the lower back, cervical radiculopathy in the neck. And then it depends on, is it manifesting itself with weakness? Is it just numbness? Is it tingling? And then some things can be really emergent or urgent if one's having bladder or bowel issues, kind of giving you a whole differential of things, but something serious. I mean, if a person is not able to know when they need to go to the bathroom, that's emergent. You need to get to an emergency room ASAP. So.
Yeah. I don't think she's having any of those problems, but okay.
No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's it. But no, I mean, because like a lot of people don't know about.
She just knows that it hurts. Severe stenosis, which is a narrowing, which some people have a proclivity just to have that kind of narrowing. Others, oftentimes, as we mature, and I know she's young, but as we mature, we can tend to get more narrowing, and it can become symptomatic. There are sometimes exercises that can help, strengthening the core, that also helps. All those sorts of things. Aquatic therapy can sometimes help. Certainly would strongly stay away from these quick schemes like, oh, I got a surgical thing, they could do it in a day. No, I would try to avoid that if at all possible. Get a second opinion if people start directing you that way.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, some people don't know. Now, that was Crystal Dorsey. She had asked that question. I think, Crystal played with Patrice in high school. I think, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, all the athletes would be on here asking like, hey, man, what's wrong with my wrist?
Yeah. Oh, Patrice is mentioning, yeah, I worked with Dr. Anderson. Remarkable guy. Yeah. Really remarkable. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, even if you see a lot of the former athletes who are now the announcers, especially the football players, they have significant arthritic changes you can see in their hands, likely in their feet, but likely in their knees and other parts of their body, because football takes particular wear and tear on people's bodies. People who are catchers, being behind the plate for years, people who played, Major League Baseball catchers, they often look like they're, older than they are chronologically because the wear and tear that one puts on their body. It's not simple.
Right. Yeah. And
not easy.
I think, I had listened to, I was watching the morning show, and they were talking about the body is made for motion. Right. And it was like get up and move, be active.
Yeah, I think Michelle Obama alluded to that. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Activity. Yeah. And that's a good segue. It seems like a lot of youngsters now, they're more immobile. They don't like to move as much. And you sometimes see that. I mean, unfortunately, this is sort of a public health announcement, but when we were kids, fitness and gym and phys ed was an important part of the curriculum. I believe it still is, but there's rampant obesity in younger people, and sometimes I see a lot of younger people that just look like they don't want to go into the gym, whether it's the boys' club or to get out there and run and do, whether it's even like the President's Physical Fitness Award, the 600-yard, all of those sorts of things that we did. It was good for fitness. I mean, I hope they're still doing that. And I know with COVID, things were put on pause, but a lot of younger people are just not into it as much. It's just interesting.
I don't think what is interesting is that, a lot of kids was failing phys ed. I mean, in high school.
If you don't want to get up and move, you probably should. I mean, it's unfortunate. You got to get up and do something.
Well, yeah, I think if you get in a routine while you're young, you can stay in the routine while you're older.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you were active, like we were, jumping fences, Ringler, Coco, Larry, Coco, whatever we were running, tag, football, everybody just running around the playground and doing all those things. And, and if you can learn to stay active, as you go along, I think it transitions into.
It serves you well. Yeah. I mean, I remember distinctly when I was practicing baseball in the spring, when we were just before we go outside, you were in the gym. And I remember you'd practice and practice and practice. And I'm thinking to myself, he's the best player in this school, one of the best players in the state. And he's practicing harder than anybody else. That resonates loudly. I mean, that's the kind of discipline that people need. And not just to become a pro ball player, but I mean, exercise is the same sort of discipline. It's not a spectator sport. You have to put the time and the energy into it, and you reap it back many-fold when you keep your body fit, as you've done. It's important.
Well, I try, because your body, I've learned that your body feels a certain way, right? If you've been practicing something for a long time, like I have been exercising for a long time, whether it's just getting in the gym, or getting in the backyard, just taking some shots,
right.
Or going for a walk or going to the pool. And I notice that there's a difference. And when I'm not doing it, the minimum is one day I cannot do something.
Right.
After that, my body feels different.
Right.
It doesn't feel as good and energetic as it is when I'm active, when I'm actually doing exercise.
Yeah.
And so
also makes your mind feel clearer too. It typically is going to make your mind feel clearer too.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And people, I think one of the craziest part, if you in the past were a person who exercised or who was active, right? You were used to that. And after a while, you stop doing it. And then here's the other thing that hinders them from getting back into it, because they remember where they used to be. So when they started exercising or being active, they want to start out where they used to be. right? And you can't start out where you used to be because incrementally you came to that point, right? And so when you stop, you got to incrementally go back. You just can't jump in. I used to do 200 push-ups and 200 crunches a day, right? And I haven't done anything in 6 months, right? I'm not going to jump up to 200 push-ups and crunches. I got to take it one,
Absolutely.
2 or 3 at a time. Yeah.
And to
that's
that end, I think one's body does change. So there's certain things where you may need to just do another set point, which would be wonderful. If you can still do 200 and 200, that's amazing. But
I can't do that now, but I'm saying, like,
speaking, if you did even a quarter of that, you're probably still at the 99th percentile for someone your age. I mean, it's all about, what's reasonable. And we sometimes see, I see, weekend warriors who try to do too much, or it's even funny, they get a fitness coach to try to work with them. But the basics, you don't really need to pay anybody just to get out there and walk and do some steps, whether it's 10,000 steps or for some people, I don't know, 500 steps would be a step in the right direction. You got to start somewhere. Again, it's not a spectator sport. And, eating well and certainly, getting rest, and so all those things are combined. But fitness is important. I know we went a little bit on a tangent, but it's important, whether a person wants to be an athlete or they just want to be healthy.
Yeah, no. And well, first of all, I don't know that we went on a tangent. I think that this is valuable for people, for people to hear.
True. Very true.
And, my mom, is in her 80s, right? And she complained about her knees, right? And, I used to say, like, hey, Mom, just get up and walk around the kitchen and come back to your seat every hour on the hour, But it's exciting since my oldest son has been back. Every other Wednesday, she goes out bowling. We go out bowling with her.
Oh,
right.
Great,
so now she's starting to, like, kind of get that little, I'm gonna say this quietly. She put a good whooping on. He didn't want me to go bowling with him the other day, right? So my mother, while I wasn't there, right, my mother put a little whipping on him over there too. Yeah.
Good.
Bowling out. So you got to stay active.
Very true. At all ages, even in one's 80s. That's excellent. Yeah.
Somebody's asking about knee pain. That's with the WABA, Women's American Basketball Association. The owner is Marsha Blunt. I don't know if you remember Marsha. Marsha played in school with my wife.
Yeah. I remember the name. Yeah.
Marsha is the founder of the WABA. Treese is the owner of the Mount Vernon Shamrocks of the WABA. And I think last year they had about 18 teams, and they're growing each and every year.
Oh, excellent.
But
excellent.
Somebody's asking about knee pain.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we do is, certainly strengthening the muscles above and below the knees. Interesting. I used to do the screening evals many years ago for Monroe College when they were a 2-year school. Now they've actually transitioned to a 4-year school, as you're probably aware, based in the Bronx. And they're actually very competitive, I know, as a 2-year school, because they put some of the graduates actually went to D1 schools. But I remember one or 2 years, I actually saw the young ladies, and of the maybe 18 ladies on the team, or 15, I'd say a third of them had already had arthroscopic surgery as teenagers. It's just part of it is just the body structure of women typically lends itself that they'd be more prone to even have these injuries. So they're sustaining, meniscal injuries and things in their teens. And they were able to come back and obviously play competitive ball. But those would be the main things. And as we mature, as we get to our age group, whether it's, again, bicycling, exercise, if you can try to not do a lot of pounding. Pounding would be like hard running. That puts a lot of pain on, a lot of excessive stress on the knees. So if you can do it in water, where you'd have the buoyancy of the water, that's a great way to get the aerobic component and also to strengthen the legs. Some of these roads, executives, somebody's getting a knee replacement tomorrow with a rod placement. Yes, second time. I always say if you can keep your original parts, that's ideal. But some individuals have a proclivity just to have accelerated arthritic conditions. Anyone who's played competitive sports like college and beyond, clearly, if they're playing basketball or anything, they're running, they have a tendency to develop significant arthritic changes. And when you start to lose the cartilage, at some point, unfortunately, it can reach bone on bone. That can be excruciating pain. And then it's a matter of lifestyle and what one's comfortable with. So we have patients, not uncommonly in their 70s or even 80s, who'll have knee replacements, bilateral knee replacements. Why? Because they're cognitively well, they're active, they've got an iPad, they've got an iPhone, they want to enjoy life with their kids and grandkids, but the knees are bothering them. So they get the knees done. So knee replacements are very, very common. Knees and hip replacements very, very common. Obviously, you have it on one. It's not uncommon to have both knees involved. But as I said, keeping one's weight down is helpful to some degree. Clearly individuals who, over the years, if they've gained like 150, 200 pounds or something, if you're a football player and you played at 200 and now you're 350, 400, that's a lot of extra weight you're carrying on the knees and hips, etc. All those things are important. So anything that you can put less wear and tear on the knees helps to keep them to last longer. Typically, individuals, at least up to now, they will usually require another knee replacement 20 years down the road. And I see many people having a second knee replacement 20 years later. But the procedures are, it's under general anesthesia. It's a major surgery, but most people do exceedingly well. And the whole idea is balance of, just lifestyle and being able to get back and mobile, and hopefully without an assistive device. Meaning no cane or, in the long run. Typically, you'll use a walker first, and we have patients who have total knees, bilateral knees, hip surgeries on our unit, and then typically they go home and they do very well. Somebody's writing about cervical spine. Cervical spine, people get arthritis in the spine. Cervical spine is very serious. I mean, if you have profound stenosis or narrowing, or if you have severe disc herniations, it can put pressure on the nerves and cause weakness. It can cause sometimes clumsiness where people drop things, depending on the severity of it. And if it's pushing on the spinal cord, one can develop what's called cervical myelopathy, which can, unfortunately, usually requires surgical intervention. Again, I'm not a surgeon, but I see individuals like this all the time and refer them for surgery if they failed conservative management. Very serious procedures, but the good part about New York is there are a lot of excellent spine surgeons, certainly within, say, a 30-mile radius of Mount Vernon, between New York City, even in Westchester, up to certainly Westchester County Medical Center, because beyond that, then there's, Albany would not be the next major medical center, or maybe Vassar. But I see it in the people's states, the different procedures they're undergoing. Yeah,
right.
And sometimes you just have to undergo it because it's quality of life.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. I think my wife mentioned something else there too. She's talking about, I think she said she took a lot of office files.
I'm sure she did. I mean, that's probably some of the one-on-ones that you did outside.
Well, yeah, and then we grew up in asphalt.
That's a lot of wear and tear. A lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, a lot of young people don't play outside anymore.
There's some young guys. They're guys not young, but guys in our age group that played ball on the Mount Vernon team, and I'm pretty sure they had bilateral knees pretty young, as I recall, like in their 30s and 40s, because the wear and tear can be significant, really significant.
Yeah,
just wear and tear. It's not because they got more bigger or anything. It's just the wear and tear on the knees can do it.
Right. Yeah, and and before we get off, we got a few more minutes. But before we get off, I want to ask how well, because it's been a little while since I've seen your family. So tell me about your lovely wife and your kids and what they're doing
wife
now.
Wife 32 years, doing well, and the children, they're all out of college. Eldest did grad school, and my daughter works at a bank. She's doing well with the economics degree. My two sons are software engineers, computer software engineers.
Oh,
so they're all
nice.
doing well. Yeah.
Oh. And
no one's married, no grandkids yet, but
it happened,
nest, which is good. Empty nest, and then we were together 32 years, strong. It's all good.
All good. So one time you were up in the Ossining area and you were looking to sell your house, and and my wife and I came up and to visit, and something unique happened while we were there. Looking at your, so this is a curiosity question, and we noticed that you had an amazing train set.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm still doing that. Still doing that, man.
And that's the one I bought my grandson.
Nice.
To
If he has the
start him
train bug,
off.
that's how it starts. It starts slow, and I still have the same exuberance and excitement that your grandson had. Yeah, still doing that, and got to get you and Patrice over, man.
Yeah. So tell us about it now.
Yeah.
You had a whole basement full of the train. And so tell me where you're at now. Talk to me about where it's at now.
Yeah, it's growing, and I gotta get you two over though, man. It's growing. But I'm always doing little structures on it, just like a slice of life. So it has a lot of little things that would remind you, or just what you see, the sights and sounds of New York and everything. It's very, very relaxing because what I do, I work hard. I'm on call every 4th week, meaning I go into the hospital on the 4th week. I go in 7 days out of the week, and I'm the primary doctor for up to like those 40 patients over that weekend, managing any of their issues and closely with other providers as needed. So it could be call internists, could call orthopedics if they need ortho, etc. But get called at night at times for issues with blood pressure or whatever. But the good part is it's very rewarding seeing individuals go home and regain function. Seeing someone, just to give you a sense, someone who maybe has been very healthy, they come in, they have a stroke, and might be the first time they've been in the hospital since they had a child, for instance, But it's, even though they might be in their 60s or 70s or 80s, to get them to be able to walk back home, and many times that's what happens. It's uplifting for them, their families, and it's a rewarding. It's good in many, many levels.
Yeah.
In many ways, I meet people by accident, if you will. But if you can get a person, that's what's the good thing about rehab, getting them to return to some semblance of where they were before they came to the hospital. Because face it, anyone who goes to the hospital and is admitted, they're vulnerable. Short of going there maybe to deliver a child, and you assume it's going to be a very nice outcome, you go home. But if you go in because you're short of breath, or you can't move one side, or you broke a leg, you're hoping and praying to get out. You want to get out, no matter where you go. And rehab may be one step in that direction. And again, what I encourage all my staff is to treat every person as you want your family member treated. And I think if you do that, you can always say that you've given your all, and as you said, sort of paid it forward. And that's the motto.
Yeah, I think we got a few rehab pictures. I know I threw some on there. Yeah, and I always throw some stuff that's related. When I was the thing that helped me when I was in rehab, particularly with my knee, the thing that helped me was the person helping me. Right, the young man that was helping me, get full range of motion, man. How
right.
How amazing he was.
Oh, sure.
And to help me, because I was a little unsure, right? And so to have people encouraging you while you're there, and I wasn't a good patient. Really, right. when it came to breaking up that atrophy, and hearing the little popping sounds and all that kind of stuff. I was crying for my mother. I was in my 40s and I'm crying. Where's my mother? But he was so good with me, so patient with me.
Sometimes I have to give you some tough love and tell you just to man up, man. Come on.
Oh, well, they should have said that right away, man. Crying for your mother, man. Man up.
Man up, man.
No, he was sympathetic with me.
Yeah, I can see Patrice says screaming all high pitched. Yeah, no, I believe it. But yeah, but to your initial point, you have to be gentle. It's sort of a combination, but as I had alluded to, it's not a spectator sport. The hard work is going to be done by the patient, whether it's a 90-year-old or it's a 45-year-old, and it's arduous. You have to put in that effort and that work, if you want to get to the next step, because our therapists are there. Acute rehab is 3 hours of intensive therapy, contrasting that with, say, a nursing home, which is like an hour and a half. So it's more costly than going to a nursing home, but it hopefully gets you to where you need to be quicker. And most people want to get out of the hospital, but we want to get you out independently and hopefully not return if at all possible.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful I didn't have to return, but they did a good job with me. They did a good job. I worked. I put in the work. Yeah.
Did they call a foul on the two guys that took your patella out? I mean, that's also important too, man. Did they call a foul? Or it wasn't that kind of a game.
I know we won the game, right?
That's important.
I was playing with my brothers and all the guys I kind of grew up with, and we were known for winning championships.
Oh, sure.
And the thing, when I went down and everybody seen it, right? I'm thinking like I'm sitting home in the bed, having knee surgery and stuff like that. And I'm telling them like, I'm thinking like they guys see me. Hey, they would say like, hey man, let's go win. We made it to the championship. That was the semifinals, was in the championship.
Right.
And all I really cared about was that we were going to win the championship again. I mean, and
you want to bring the mill home. You want to bring it home. I understood. Right?
No matter what. Man, I should have took a jump shot rather than driving in, but I wanted to finish that thing, right?
You live and learn.
Yeah. And then I asked them, I said, because when you're going through this, and getting ready for surgery and all that kind of stuff like that, you're not really thinking about the game of basketball. But when I finally thought about it, right, I was thinking, like, man, I'm talking to my brother and Ronell, his friend Ronell, who played with me. I said, did we win the championship? He's like, nah, man, after we seen you go down, nobody want to play no more.
So they learned for something. Yeah.
I was like, hold on. Y'all didn't win the championship, man?
Right. Wow.
Oh, that don't make no sense.
So you were carrying the team on your back, man. That's not good.
Oh, man. Probably for years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the one time they needed to step up, they didn't.
That's the way life is oftentimes. That's the way life
is. Yeah. And I say, like, I was in the gym. It was I just had to get back out there. But I was out there playing 3-on-3. Me and Ricky Stanley was playing with the kids. And, all I could do was just kind of post them up and back them down and then fake like I'm guarding them. And, because I just wanted to be out there. I didn't know if I would ever get back to moving again.
Sure.
Right. And my brother came in with his AAU team.
Okay.
And he kind of, people challenge you. They say certain things to you. I'm competitive. So Rick says, hey, man, when y'all get ready to scrimmage, me and Lowe's, and we'll pick up 3 other guys, and we'll scrimmage you guys. And my brother looked at me, and he said, Lowe's? He done. Like that. I'm like, what you say?
Wow.
I'm like, what you say? And it motivated me. I got out there. I started running up and down the court.
Good for you, man. I knew you would.
Yeah.
No more injuries, right?
I went from little kids to college kids, man, after a while, man.
Can't keep a good man down, man.
No, you can't. And so I just want to motivate somebody out there who's sitting, we got Dr. Malcolm Reid here, sitting on the couch, man. He's like, man, y'all got to get up, because life is about energy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And life is, and more than that, life is about will. I always say you got to will yourself to be great, and sometimes we don't feel like getting up. Your will is more powerful than your physical mind and body.
Yeah.
Your physical body, your will is more powerful, right? If you decide to make your mind up to get up, man, you just get up and get going.
Very true.
So, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Tell your family I said hello. Tell your wife.
My pleasure. Regards to Patrice and your lovely family.
Yeah, she pops on when she wants to pop on, man. She even done popped on by now. I think she's upstairs, and I think the grandkids are upstairs, and then they probably making all kind of crazy noise. But I will certainly tell her, right? Look, I will certainly tell her and Yeah, this has
Hi,
been
Malcolm.
great.
How are you?
Hi,
I'm
how
not
you
showing my
doing?
picture because I look a mess, but great show, and thank you for everything.
You're always beautiful,
Pleasure.
babe.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays. And Lowe's, Patrice, thank you for all that you've done and continue to do for the city of Mount Vernon. Goodwill ambassadors. It's well deserved, man. Everything that you get.
Thanks, man. So I'm gonna be in touch this week. I'm gonna give you a
Sounds good.
holler. Let me know when we can get over there.
Definitely.
And check you out, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I appreciate you taking your time out your busy schedule to get on here with me. I enjoyed it. Yes, sir.
Same.
Yeah.
Wish you all the best for the happy holidays and a healthy one.
Same to you. And I want to say to my audience out there, thanks again for your support, man. I love you guys, man. And don't forget this week coming up on the Blueprint is a special podcast Saturday morning. We're going to do a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock to 10:30. And my guest is going to be Jeff Dixon. He's a longtime partner, friends, manager of Ludacris. He was a young guy that we used to mentor at the Boys and Girls Club. And now he's doing great things in film and in music. And he loves paying it forward, right? And so I look forward to talking to Jeff this week coming up. Man, again, God bless you guys. Hey, have an exciting, as we get closer and closer to Christmas, have an exciting week. I know some of you going to wait till the last minute. You're going to be exhausted when it get here. But I love you guys. God bless you. And I always say each and every week, if God allow you to wake up tomorrow, make tomorrow your masterpiece. God bless you.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Lowe's More, the Blueprint Podcast. Stay connected and follow us at our website, www.lowesmore.com. That's LOWESMOORE.com. You can also join the discussion on Twitter at Lowe's More and on Facebook at Lowe's More Jr. As always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast to stay fully up to date with everything we're up to. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
What they teaching is a joke. I ain't buying it like I'm broke. Insufficient funds for insignificant.